Archimedes was one of the most brilliant minds of all time, but his path to innovative genius was fraught with difficulty. He was born in the ancient city of Syracuse, on the island of Sicily. It was a time of political upheaval and cultural change, but amidst this backdrop, the young Archimedes began his journey to become one of the greatest mathematicians and inventors in history. Archimedes was born around 287 BC into a family of nobility. His father, Phidias, was an astronomer and mathematician, and it was from him that Archimedes likely inherited his love for these subjects. Growing up, Archimedes was exposed to the rich intellectual tradition of ancient Greece. He would have learned about the great philosophers and mathematicians who came before him, such as Plato, Aristotle, and Euclid. As a young man, Archimedes traveled to Egypt to study in Alexandria, one of the greatest centers of learning in the ancient world. There, he would have had access to the famous Library of Alexandria, with its vast collection of scrolls and texts from across the known world. He studied under the great scholars of the time, including Conon of Samos and Eratosthenes of Cyrene. It was during his time in Alexandria that Archimedes began to make a name for himself. He developed a reputation as a brilliant thinker and a creative problem solver. He was particularly interested in the practical applications of mathematics and science, and he began to invent machines and devices that could make everyday tasks easier. Upon returning to Syracuse, Archimedes continued to apply his knowledge to practical problems. He invented machines to help with construction and irrigation, such as the Archimedes screw, which could efficiently move water uphill. This device, which consists of a screw inside a hollow pipe, is still used today in various applications, from pumping water to moving grain. Archimedes also made groundbreaking discoveries in mathematics. He developed a method for approximating the value of pi, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. His method involved inscribing and circumscribing polygons around a circle, calculating their perimeters, and using these to estimate the value of pi. While his estimate was not as precise as modern calculations, it was a significant improvement over previous attempts. Another of Archimedes' major mathematical contributions was his work on the properties of circles and spheres. He proved that the surface area of a sphere is 4 times the area of its greatest circle, and that the volume and surface area of a sphere are 2/3 that of the cylinder that circumscribes it. These groundbreaking discoveries laid the foundation for the field of spherical geometry. However, Archimedes faced many challenges in his work. His ideas were often met with skepticism from his contemporaries, who did not always understand the practical applications of his discoveries. In a famous anecdote, King Hiero II of Syracuse asked Archimedes to determine whether a golden crown was pure gold or had been mixed with silver. Archimedes solved the problem while taking a bath, noticing that the level of the water rose as he entered the tub. He realized that he could use this principle to measure the volume of the crown and compare it to its weight, thus determining its purity. According to the story, Archimedes was so excited by his discovery that he ran naked through the streets of Syracuse shouting, "Eureka!" meaning, "I have found it." Archimedes also had to navigate the complex political landscape of Syracuse. The city was a powerful city-state, but it was under constant threat from the expanding Roman Republic. As a close advisor to King Hiero II, Archimedes was involved in the city's defense strategies. He designed machines and weapons to help protect Syracuse from invaders. The greatest test of Archimedes' genius came during the siege of Syracuse in 214 BC. The Roman army, led by General Marcus Claudius Marcellus, laid siege to the city. Archimedes was called upon to help defend his hometown. Using his inventions and mathematical insights, Archimedes created machines that could lift and sink Roman ships, hurl large stones at the enemy, and even use reflected sunlight to set ships on fire. His most famous invention, the claw of Archimedes, was a crane-like device that could lift a ship out of the water and then suddenly drop it, causing it to sink. The claw worked by using a large lever arm to lift the ships out of the water. The arm was attached to a base on the shore and could be swung out over the sea. At the end of the arm was a large metal claw or hook that could be lowered onto an enemy ship. Once the claw had a hold of the ship, the lever arm would be raised, lifting the ship out of the water. The ship would then be dropped, often breaking apart or capsizing due to the sudden impact. Another of Archimedes' war machines was the catapult. He designed several types of catapults that could hurl large stones or other projectiles at enemy ships or soldiers. Some of these catapults were capable of throwing stones weighing up to 500 pounds. Perhaps the most legendary, although also most disputed of Archimedes' defensive strategies, was his use of mirrors to set enemy ships on fire. According to some ancient accounts, Archimedes arranged large mirrors or polished metal shields along the city walls. When the sun was at the right angle, these mirrors could reflect its rays onto the wooden ships, causing them to catch fire. This later came to be known as the Archimedes heat ray, which may have provided partial inspiration for an inventor from the 19th and 20th century, Nikola Tesla. While the feasibility of this heat ray has been debated by modern scholars, there is no doubt that Archimedes' inventions and strategies were instrumental in the defense of Syracuse. For 2 years his machines kept the Roman army at bay, much to the frustration of General Marcellus. It is said that Marcellus remarked, "There is nothing that gives me more trouble and more anxiety than this man Archimedes and his inventions." Despite Archimedes' best efforts, however, the city of Syracuse eventually fell to the Romans in 212 BC. According to legend, Archimedes was so engrossed in his mathematical work that he didn't notice the Roman soldier who approached him. When the soldier demanded that Archimedes come with him to see General Marcellus, Archimedes allegedly replied, "Do not disturb my circles," referring to the mathematical diagrams he had drawn in the sand. Enraged, the soldier killed Archimedes on the spot. The fall of Syracuse marked the end of an era, but Archimedes' legacy was just beginning. His inventions and mathematical discoveries continued to inspire and influence scholars for centuries to come. Archimedes' contributions to science and mathematics are immeasurable. He laid the foundations for the field of hydrostatics with his principle of buoyancy, which states that an object immersed in a fluid is buoyed up by a force equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object. This principle explains why ships float and why objects feel lighter in water than in air. Archimedes also developed the concept of the center of gravity, which is the point at which an object's weight is evenly distributed and on which it can be balanced. This concept is fundamental to the design of buildings, bridges, and other structures. In the field of mathematics, Archimedes made significant advances in the calculation of areas and volumes of geometric shapes. He developed a method for calculating the area of a parabola by dividing it into an infinite number of triangles and adding up their areas. He also showed that the volume of a sphere is 2/3 the volume of a cylinder that surrounds it. But perhaps Archimedes' greatest legacy is the way he approached problems. He combined theoretical knowledge with practical application, using his understanding of mathematics to solve real-world challenges. He was a true innovator, always pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Throughout history, scholars have marveled at Archimedes' genius. The great Roman orator Cicero praised him, writing, "Archimedes possessed such a lofty spirit, such a profound soul, that he never condescended to leave behind him any written work on the subject of his mechanical inventions." Cicero continued by saying, "Regarding as ignoble and sordid the business of mechanics and every sort of art which is directed to use and profit, he placed his whole ambition in those speculations, the beauty and subtlety of which are untainted by any admixture of the common needs of life." Even today, scientists and mathematicians continue to build upon Archimedes' work. His principles of leverage, his methods for calculating areas and volumes, and his approach to problem-solving are all fundamental to modern science and engineering. In the words of the physicist Stephen Hawking, "Each generation stands on the shoulders of those who have gone before them, just as I did as a young PhD student in Cambridge, inspired by the work of Isaac Newton, James Clerk Maxwell, and Albert Einstein." Archimedes was one of the very first to begin that process of scientific discovery, which has led us to the modern age. Despite his monumental contributions to science and mathematics, the final resting place of Archimedes remains shrouded in mystery. The Roman orator Cicero, writing some 250 years after Archimedes' death, claimed to have found his tomb near Syracuse. According to Cicero, the tomb was overgrown and neglected, but it was marked by a sculpture illustrating Archimedes' favorite mathematical proof, the relationship between a sphere and a cylinder. In Cicero's words, "I managed to track down his grave. The Syracusans knew nothing about it, and even denied that any such thing existed. But there it was, completely surrounded and hidden by bushes of brambles and thorns." I remembered having heard of some simple lines of verse which had been inscribed on his tomb, referring to a sphere and cylinder modeled in stone on top of the grave. And so I took a good look round all the numerous tombs that stand beside the Agrigentine gate. Finally, I noted a little column just visible above the scrub. It was surmounted by a sphere and a cylinder. If Cicero's account is true, it provides a poignant epitaph for the great mathematician. The sphere and cylinder were subjects of one of Archimedes' most famous mathematical proofs. It showed that the surface area of a sphere is 4 times the area of its greatest circle, and that the volume and surface area of a sphere are 2/3 that of the cylinder that circumscribes it. Archimedes was so proud of this proof that he requested it be inscribed on his tombstone. However, despite Cicero's claim, no trace of Archimedes' tomb has been found in modern times. The city of Syracuse has been repeatedly destroyed and rebuilt over the centuries, and any marker of Archimedes' grave has long since disappeared, causing some to speculate that it may have been moved and hidden. Today, scholars continue to search for clues to the location of Archimedes' final resting place. Some have suggested that Cicero's account may have been embellished, or that he may have been mistaken in his identification of the tomb. Others hold out hope that archaeological evidence may one day come to light. As we continue to unravel the secrets of the universe with tools and methods that trace back to Archimedes, the exact location of his earthly remains slips further away from our grasp. Perhaps this is a fitting metaphor for the pursuit of knowledge itself, always striving forward, building upon the foundations of the past, while the material traces of our predecessors fade into history. Regardless of where Archimedes' tomb may be, his true monument is in the enduring impact of his ideas. As long as there are those who seek to understand the world through science and mathematics, the spirit of Archimedes will live on, inspiring new generations to push the boundaries of what is known and what is possible. His legacy is not in a tomb of stone, but in the living, breathing pursuit of knowledge that he helped to ignite. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new content when it drops. And if you would like to support the channel, consider picking up a copy of Ernest Dempsey's latest archaeological thriller, The Inventor's Tomb, through the link in the description. Thank you for watching.